So I mailed 3 of my books to Herbie Hancock in PDF form, to his managers actually. Polytonality, Modal Diatonicism, and Harmonic and Melodic Music Theory and Method for the 21st Century, which includes a section on reflections. Then, about a year later, all this stuff going on about negative harmony, Jacob Collier. So I looked it up, watched a couple of videos, and calculated a few things, and worked out an expansive version called modal negative harmony, where you can apply the same concept to all the modes. Now, negative harmony is done by a process called inversion. Now, if you know about inversion and dominant chords and the basic process of negative harmony, you want to skip to later on in the video. I have it written at the bottom underneath in the details for the video of what time you should skip to. Inverting an interval is using the same interval descending as it is ascending, or ascending as it is descending, such as a minor third. A minor third up from the root is a minor third. A minor third down from the root is a major sixth. A to its minor third, C, and then A to its major sixth, F sharp, and vice versa. A major sixth up is a major sixth. A major sixth down is a minor third. A up to F sharp and A down to C. And then you see a major sixth up is the same note as a minor third down. Perfect intervals invert to perfect intervals. Major intervals invert to minor intervals. Minor intervals invert to major intervals. Diminished intervals invert to augmented intervals. Augmented intervals invert to diminished intervals. Seconds invert to sevenths. Thirds invert to sixths. Fourths invert to fifths. Fifths invert to fourths. Sixths invert to thirds. Sevenths invert to seconds. You see how it goes up on the left column and down on the right column. It's symmetrical. Minor thirds invert to major sixths. Major seconds invert to minor sevenths. And perfect fourths invert to perfect fifths. Seconds invert to sevenths. Major inverts to minor. Major second inverts to minor seventh. A up to B, a major second, and A down to G, a major second down. A to G, a minor 7 up, and A descending, a minor 7 to B. A minor 7 up is G from A, and a major second down to G from A. Inversions of intervals within a chord or scale is a reflection, like in a mirror. As you can see, the intervals of the C major triad, C up to E is a major third, and E up to G is a minor third, perfect fifth of C. And then you reflect those intervals downward from the fifth. You have a major third down from C, and you have A flat. You have a minor third down from A flat, and you have F, fourth of C, C being the fifth of F, and you get F minor. This is not a chord inversion, but a chord reflection. They can be termed mirror chords. And with the triad, the root in the reflection is the fifth. The root of the original chord is the fifth in the reflection. It's not always the case with every chord, but in the triad, it is the case. And it's very important also for negative harmony that the root note in the original chord becomes the fifth of the reflection chord. A scalar reflection or modal reflection takes each of the intervals of the mode or scale in succession and inverts them to the new interval. If you look at the picture, you'll see where it says reflection. Pretend that's a mirror, and you'll see each of the intervals are the inversion of the next one over, like you're looking into a mirror. The major 7 of Ionian becomes a minor 2nd in Phrygian. The major 6th in Ionian becomes a minor third in Phrygian. The perfect fifth in Ionian becomes a perfect fourth in Phrygian. The perfect fourth in Ionian becomes a perfect fifth in Phrygian. The major third in Ionian becomes minor sixth in Phrygian. The major second in Ionian becomes a minor seventh in Phrygian. And vice versa. Now, if you don't know the modes, I have them listed here. C Ionian, D Dorian, E Phrygian, F Lydian, G Mixolydian, Aeolian, and B Locrian, all from the key of C major. What it is it's the same notes of the key C, D, E, F, G, A, and B played from each of the different notes to its octave. So C Ionian or C major is C, D, E, F, G, A, B, while F Lydian is F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F. I could list the intervals of each of the modes, but you got to do some work yourself, or you can purchase my book, Modal Diatonicism. Now, once you've figured out all the intervals of the modes, and you do the reflections, you'll find out that Ionian reflects Phrygian, Dorian reflects Dorian, Phrygian reflects Ionian, Lydian reflects Locrian, Mixolydian reflects Aeolian, Aeolian reflects Mixolydian, and Locrian reflects Lydian. Each mode that reflects another, it always works exactly the same in the opposite. And what you end up with is four pairs. Three, actually. You have Ionian Phrygian, Dorian Dorian, which reflects itself, so it's not really a pair, Lydian Locrian, and Mixolydian Aeolian, and they reflect each other. Another important thing to know is the chord set, or the chord scale. The chord set and the chord scale aren't exactly the same thing. All modes have their own chord scale, but it's from the same chord set as their overall major key that they're from. The key of C major has the chord set and chord scale from Ionian, D major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, and B diminished. And these are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the 7 chord functions. And they're capitalized if major and they're lowercase if minor. Now, each of these have their own extensions that coincide with the mode, but that is another story. You'll notice also B diminished, the 7, is lowercase like minor, yet it's a diminished chord. That means it has a flat fifth, but it has a minor third, so it's lowercase like the minor. Another important thing to know is the 5 chord. From major Ionian, the 5 chord is a dominant 7 chord. It's a major chord if a triad. It is the same note as the 5 from the 1 chord and is also the root of the 5 chord. Now, for negative harmony, you take the intervals of the major chord, in this case C major, Ionian, and you go to its fifth, G, and then you reflect the intervals from G down. So you have a major third up, and then from there a minor third up. So you take from G a major third down, which is E flat, and then you have another minor third down from there, which is C, and you end up with C minor. And you take the scale C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, and you reflect that from G, G Phrygian, which is in the key of C minor, or E flat major. But since you're from a C minor chord, what you get there is C Aeolian. And though it's translated to C minor Aeolian, you can know what mode it is going to be from the root of your original chord by taking the fifth, knowing that G from Ionian is Mixolydian. You reflect Mixolydian and you have Aeolian. Mixolydian reflect Aeolian. For the negative harmony, then, you place the chord scale of C Ionian on top of the chord scale for C Aeolian in reverse, starting with the 6. So what you get is a major 1 from C Ionian placed from C Aeolian, a minor 6. You get a 2 chord replaced by a 5 chord, a 3 chord replaced by a 4 chord, a 4 chord replaced by a 3 chord, 5 chord replaced by a 2 chord, a 6 chord replaced by 1 chord, 7 chord replaced by a 7 chord, but from different keys. The C Aeolian chord scale is from the key of E flat major. And what you end up with is a uniform method of parallel substitutions. Now, the dominant chord is said to be the most important chord in tonal music if you see tonal music as Ionian, Aeolian, common practice, functional harmony, which is actually an idea that was come up with in the 20th century by serialists, because they looked in the past, because they were writing atonal music. They looked in the past for what had been done with tonal music, and they saw common practice functional harmony, Ionian, Aeolian. So they said, well, that's tonal music. And this was all, in my opinion, a ploy to keep people from studying polytonal music, so they could say it was impossible. Because if you have to have Ionian, Aeolian, common practice functional harmony to have tonality, then you can't have polytonality. But this was not the original definition of tonality. The original definition of tonality was the harmonic and melodic arrangement around a tonal center. And this was held up into the early to mid, I think about the mid 20th century. But the dominant chord is the only dominant chord there's only one of them in the chord set of the major scale. And it's the 5 from the tonic. So it is seen as a very important chord for setting up a resolution to the tonic, and seen as kind of a secondary chord to the tonic. And in this, negative harmony is arranged from the major, giving the major key and chord kind of importance over every other kind. And this is explained in several, in many texts. It's a common idea, but it is not completely sound. At least the proof within negative harmony, that you take the major scale, go to its 5th, and then reflect, and you get its parallel, the minor scale, from the same root as the tonic that you started with. And that seemed kind of as a proof that there's a symmetry there. But, as I'll show, that's also true in reverse, from C minor to G, which would be the 3 chord instead of the 5 chord. Since you're coming from the 6 instead of the 1, and you reflect, you're going to end up with a major chord, C major, and you can have negative harmony produced from there that works just the same. And since the 5 chord from minor is a 3 chord, you can go by Phrygian reflects Ionian. Now, if we go to the key of A minor within C major, you can see that from the chord, the 6th chord, the minor chord, you're going to get a major chord as its 5th, and reflecting down, you're going to get the chord A major and the key also of A major. So your negative harmony then is seen by putting this Aeolian chord scale on the top of the Ionian chord scale in reverse on the bottom. And what you get is a 6, once again replaced with a 1, a 7 replaced with a 7, a major 1 replaced with a 6, a minor 2 replaced with a major 5, a minor 3 replaced with a major 4, major 4 replaced with minor 3, major 5 replaced by minor 2, which is the same as the negative harmony from major, except in a different key. In the Phrygian mode, the tonic is the 3 chord. You go up to the 5 of the 3 chord, you have the 7. From C, Phrygian, still G. Now, Locrian reflects Lydian. So what you're going to end up with is a C4 chord in C Lydian from C Phrygian. To get the negative harmony, you put the chord scale of C Phrygian on top of the chord scale of C Lydian. So you have 3 substituted by a 4, 4 substituted by a 3, a 5 substituted by a 2, a 6 substituted by a 1, a 7 substituted by a 7, a 1 substituted by a 6, a 2 substituted by a 5, and a 3 substituted by a 4. And you can note that the negative substitution for each chord function is the same as it is for the Ionian and Aeolian. It's just from a different key and from a different starting point. So if you're in E Phrygian from the key of C major, like C Ionian, you're in the same key, but you're from the 3 chord, you're from Phrygian, and you do the negative harmony, you're going to end up with E Lydian, which is the key of B major, instead of E flat major. Or, as I showed earlier, from Aeolian, Aeolian, the key of A major. And once again, going from the major to the minor, in this case from Lydian to Phrygian, you're going to have the same negatives It's just going to be a different key. Like if you're in the key of C major, F Lydian to F Phrygian, you're going to have the key of D flat major instead of the key of G major. The modal negative harmony, as I've shown for Ionian and Aeolian, are going to be the same. For Phrygian and Lydian are going to be the same. And for Mixolydian-Dorian are going to be the same as well. Now, Locrian is unique because its negative harmony is itself. You have C Locrian, and the negative is also C Locrian. But you have a 1 substituted by a 6, a 2 substituted by a 5, a 3 substituted by a 4, a 4 substituted by a 3, a 5 substituted by a 2, a 6 substituted by a 1, and then, of course, the 7 substituted by the 7. So you still have substitutions, but they're in the same key. In the key of C major, B Locrian is going to then be substituted by chords from B Locrian. You're going to stay in C major. So take a look at these and copy them down if you want. These are all of the modal negative harmonies. And as you can see, the 4 chord is always replaced by a 3 chord. A 6 chord is always substituted by a 1 chord. A 5 chord is always substituted by a 2 chord, etc., etc. It's uniform in that manner. But the different modes are going to yield different key changes from the key. The negative harmony from Phrygian into Lydian is going to be B major. Your negative harmony from Lydian into Phrygian is going to be D flat major. Your negative harmony from Mixolydian to Dorian is then going to be F major, and your negative harmony from D Dorian to D Mixolydian is going to be G major. So you have different keys that you're going to be going to from the different modes. Now I have a short example piece. The first is going to be Phrygian, and then I'm going to show you again with the negative harmonies from Lydian, and it's in E. And now we perform the reflection for the negative of the 3 chord E minor. You go to the 5th in B, you go down a minor 3rd, and you get G sharp. And then you go down a major 3rd from G sharp, and you get E. So you have E, G sharp, and B, a major triad. It being Ionian from B, the reflection then makes for E Lydian. From the Ionian, the negative harmony is going to be the parallel Aeolian, so C major to C minor, which is the key of E flat major, which is a minor 3rd from C. To go to the relative, the Aeolian, you go to A and then parallel A major, which is a minor 3rd down from the root C. And E flat from A is a tritone. So you have the relationship of the tritone and the minor 3rd and the parallel from the Ionian Aeolian negative harmonies. The negative harmony for the Phrygian and the Lydian, you have from E Phrygian to E Lydian the key of B major, which is a half step down from the original key where the E minor Phrygian chord comes from. And from F Lydian to F Phrygian, you have the key of D flat major, which is a half step up from C. And B and D flat are a whole step apart. So you get the relationship of a whole step and a half step. And for the Mixolydian and the Dorian negative harmonies, from G Mixolydian to G Dorian, you get the key of F major. And from D Dorian to D Mixolydian negative harmonies, you get the key of G major. And these are the subdominant and the dominant to the C major of the original key and are a whole step apart. So you get the relationship of a whole step, a 4th, and a 5th, which are each other's reflection. All these, the relationships to the root, the original key of the negative harmony of the minor and the major mode pairs are each other's reflections. The major 7 B major, from E Phrygian to E Lydian, from C, is the reflection of the minor 2nd from F Lydian to F Phrygian, D flat major. And then the G Mixolydian to the G Dorian is the F major 4th, which is the reflection inversion of the G major from D Mixolydian. And of course, the minor 3rd and the major 6th from the Ionian Aeolian, which are the parallels, and also the tritone, which reflects itself. The negative harmony of the minor and the major, both related by a whole step, the Dorian and the Mixolydian and the Phrygian and Lydian, can also be reached by pivot. If you pivot from one, you can get to the other through the 3 to the 2 chord, or the 4 to the 5 chord. Also, the Phrygian and Lydian, both being a pair, makes it very compatible to the Lydian chromatic theory of tonal organization. And also, that being so, the circle of fifths, first forming Lydian and then forming Phrygian, and it also coincides with the actual beginning of scale and 12 tones. So it's just interesting to note. When you're dealing with reflections, you're going to have a whole lot of symmetry. And you'll notice that the chord substitutions are exactly correspondent to the mode substitutions in each reflective pair. Mixolydian, being from the 5, reflects Dorian from the same root. And in each chord substitution, negative harmony, a 5 is replaced by a 2, substituted by a 2. And it's the same with Lydian and Phrygian. In the negative harmonies, the chord substitutions, a 3 is always substituted by a 4 and vice versa. And when you're doing a modal chord substitution negative harmony from Phrygian, it's going to be Lydian. And when you're doing one from Lydian, it's going to be Phrygian from the same root. And Locrian is Locrian. The 7 chord is replaced by the 7 chord. Locrian reflects also as a negative harmony Locrian. And now we get the Mixolydian to Dorian negative harmony from C Mixolydian to C Dorian. And the piece here, first we have a progression in Mixolydian, and then I'll play the same progression in its Dorian negative harmony. And now with the negative harmony substitutions from the Dorian. As you could hear, the Phrygian to Lydian and the Mixolydian to Dorian negative harmony substitutions work as well or better than the parallel substitutions from the Ionian to the Aeolian. Now, if you want to learn to write in modes, you can buy my book, Modal Diatonicism. It'll teach you how to write in modes and use secondaries and the relationships between the modes and their relatives and predominance, their parallels, and their secondaries. And then coming soon is also my book on reflections, which I've had in the works for a while. I wasn't going to release it until I had all the rest of the books done. I was going to put them in a compendium because people were uploading PDFs of my books. People were downloading them without permission, thousands of downloads. I lost a lot of sales, and they weren't giving me credit for teaching them and taking my ideas. Seems even Rick Beto changed his videos since I started making this one. I know there's a lot of people spying on my computer, and YouTube seems to be in league with some people. You could copy the screen, print off a template, and spray the exact lettering and everything on the marker board. He seems to have cut out the lengthy explanation of how the dominant chord to the major chord is so important and the basis for negative harmony. And then at the end puts in a little something about how you can use all the other modes, which weren't in there before. So because people were downloading my books without paying for them and teaching it without giving me any credit, I was going to hold on to Reflections and then release it in a compendium with all the other music theories, the full version, Modern Harmonic and Melodic Music Theory and Methods. In the partial text edition of Harmonic and Melodic Music Theory and Method for the 21st Century, I had a section on reflections, and this whole thing has been brought to the forefront since. I sent it over to over 100 music theory professors because someone stole it off my computer, and I wanted to make sure everyone knew it was mine. It was after I copyrighted it, and now they've got this going. So anyway, I'm gonna finish it and release at least a partial text edition of Reflections and Transitional Scalarity. Has a lot of work on direct reflections and relationships. So look for that. There's a lot more going on than negative harmony.